Okay, we will call this meeting to order at 6:34 p.m. To begin on our agenda, we will begin with roll call. Senator Christian Arredondo.
Present.
Senator Reed Blake.
Present.
Senator Akeem Brown. Senator Fabian Escobedo.
Present.
Senator Ali Isles.
Present.
Senator Jackie Jacoby.
Present.
Senator Colette King. Senator Delaney Koenig.
Present.
Senator Richard Lee.
Present.
Senator Carlton Newman.
Present.
Senator Priscilla Perez.
Present.
Senator Jason Ramirez.
Present.
Senator Herman Senga.
Present.
Senator Summer Schaefer.
Present.
Senator Samuel.
Present.
President Pro Tempore Devin Plaza.
Present.
Personnel Director Ashley Hirano.
Present.
Marketing and Promotions Director Rabin Mahad.
Present.
Elections Director Stephanie Rose.
Present.
Outreach Director Jessica Urquidez.
Present.
Senate Secretary Delia Chakri.
Present.
Parliamentarian Momo Hussein.
Present.
Vice President of Campus Internal Affairs Fernando Echeverria.
Present.
Vice President of External Affairs Abraham Galvan.
Here.
Vice President of Finance Irish Shang.
Present.
President Nafi Karim.
Present.
And myself. Okay, moving on to section C, approval of the agenda. At this time, I will open up the floor for motions to amend or adopt the agenda. Personnel Director Ashley Hirano.
I motion to amend the agenda to add regional office support.
Okay. Motion to add Personnel Director Ashley Hirano to office reports. Are there any other motions on the floor at this time? Marketing Director Rabin.
Move to amend myself to collaboration.
Okay. Are there any other motions on the floor at this time? Senator Summer Schaefer.
I move to amend the, to have public forum after the approval of the Senate minutes permanently for the rest of the year. Is that possible? To make that motion a permanent motion? For the
To have public forum after approval.
To have public forum after the approval of Senate minutes.
Second that motion.
Okay. So motion, all right. So we go forward on the motions as in order that they were received. We have the motion to amend to add Personnel Director Ashley Hirano to office reports. Is there a second? Seconded by Senator Christian Arredondo. All those in favor? All right. All those opposed? And abstain. All right, buddy. All right, 1401 that passes. On second adoption, we have Marketing Director Rabin Rathad's motion to be added under collaboration. Is there a second? Seconded by Senator Herman Senga. All those in favor? All those opposed? And abstain. 1401, that motion passes. And the third by Senator Summer Schaefer to amend to have public forum permanently following approval of Senate meeting minutes. Seconded by Vice President of External Affairs Abraham Galvan. All those in favor? Opposed? And abstain. All right, by 1500, this motion passes. Vice President of External Affairs.
Yeah, I move to add myself to the presentation section.
Okay. Motion to add Vice President of External Affairs Abraham Galvan to presentation. Is there a second? Second by Senator Christian Arredondo. All those in favor? Opposed? And abstain. Okay, by 1500, the motion passes. Okay, well. With our edited agenda, we will now proceed forward. We will now be passing around on Section D, approval of the Senate minutes. I'll be passing around the minutes. There is a slight change in there's a slight alteration in how these minutes have been recorded from past meetings. On inquiry into Robert's Rules of Order, conference with the parliamentarian, it's informed that how minutes are made. According to Robert's Rules of Order, the proper submission isn't necessarily what each member has been saying during these minutes, but mostly what was done. A record of the motions that were said, substance of oral reports, and things of that nature. So as we passing around, it'll be a slightly different format. So simply go through and sign your name. I'll pass around from left to right.
Question. Are we still going to be able to access what was said at the meetings if they were not present?
Yes, we have the Highlander who's recording all of the entire meeting will be accessed from there. Okay. Moving on, we will start with section E on presentation. Subsection 1, we will have the office of the president begin. So at this time, I will yield the time to our president.
Wait, one other question. Don't we have public forum now?
Oh, immediately following?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, I misunderstood that. I thought you meant just following.
No, immediately following the approval of the Senate minutes.
Okay. Just for clarification purposes, was just so I'm clear, was that the Senate's understanding of the motion that was made immediately following? Okay. And that was just the chair's understanding. So thank you. Okay. All right. We will now hear on moving up to subsection F. We switched. We will now hear from public forum. For members of the galley that would like to present to Senate on matters of new business or perhaps old business, now is the time. So I would like to ask any members of the public who would like to step forward. Yeah, just come forward and state your name for the purposes of minutes.
Cool. Hi everybody. My name is Baldwin. I'm with Cowpert. And in case, I feel like we've worked with you guys a lot over the last couple weeks with New Voters Project. In case you guys don't know who we are a student-directed, student-funded nonprofit organization here on campus, and we've been working on a lot of environmental issues and political justice issues. Last year, we were working on a plastic bag ban and also the Million Clean Cars initiative. We're proud to say that we won both of those fronts just a couple weeks ago. Banning plastic bags effective January 2016, and also increasing the amount of electric vehicles in California by 1 million within the 10 years. So speaking of that, we're having an event to celebrate that victory this Sunday. I believe you guys all have a flyer in front of you that's bright green about that event. We're going to have our city council member Mike Gardner there present with us at CSER, and also our state senator representative, his staff is going to be there, also be present to talk to students. There's going to be a lot of fun stuff to do, test driving like electric vehicles. There's going to be a Tesla there. You guys want to go test drive a Tesla? Anyway, so that's that for this Sunday. If you guys are interested in going, yeah, feel free to come by. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can you let the members of the galley please come forward and state your name for our minutes purposes, please.
Okay, hi, my name is Danny, and I just want to talk to you guys really fast. I don't know if you have any kind of authority over this or jurisdiction, but I live in Grandmark, and so every time that I walk home, I have to walk down to University and then cross into the UV. And you all know there's the Extension Center right there, like to your left. And there's a lot of student smokers that stand around there, which is fine. But they stand and they crowd on the sidewalk and they throw their cigarette butts on the ground, and it's kind of annoying when you're just trying to get home and there's like a bunch of people standing there and there's cigarette butts everywhere. I don't know if you have any kind of authority. I don't know if you can call the Extension Center and designate an area for them to go to. I don't know if you can do anything about this, but I don't know, that was just...
Senator Summer Schaefer and then Senator Collecting Director Meeting.
So this was brought to my attention. Also, I've heard of some cases of like harassment that has occurred over there by some students. So I did want to work with some students on campus and try to figure out a solution to that meeting area. Maybe creating another space for the Extension Center where they feel like they can all like congregate and hang out, or having signs up, or some other way that we can create solutions. So I'd love to work with you on that.
Okay, I actually sit on the University Extension Committee, so I can just send them an email and meet with them, and we can see what we can do. I don't know what the options are, but if you want to meet with me after, or, what's your name again?
Danny.
Danny what?
Robier.
Robier. Okay, I'll find you, and I'll CC you on the email.
Okay, great.
And I was just going to talk about the Extension Center too, so hopefully that can be figured out.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Shireen Call. I really wanted to say I appreciate you guys coming to public forum at the beginning. Makes it a lot easier. So I'm here, I'm a second year, this is my second quarter participating in co-ed and soccer. And one rule that is implemented right now, something that I actually take offense to, is the rule that when a girl scores, it counts as 2 points as opposed to the regular 1 point standard rule. I've spoken to my teammates and they don't see the point of it, and I've spoken to people that I played against. They as well don't see the point of it, male and female both. And I was just wondering if you guys know why that rule is implemented to begin with, or like help me take the steps to try to fix that.
Internal affairs. So I think the first way, just to kind of address your issue, I sit on the rec governing board, and so does Richard, I believe. So we can actually go through that board and discuss it there at that level, from talking to the other student representatives that also sit on that board, because I actually heard about this issue earlier as well from Herman over here. He let me know earlier, so I talked with the other representatives on the board, and they don't see an issue changing that rule. I think it will just be a discussion that we have with intramurals. So if I can get your information afterwards, or if you can just shoot it to me real fast, I think I'm friends with you on Facebook possibly, so we can contact you there as
Okay,
well.
sounds good. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the galley that would like to come forward?
Hello, Matthew Richardson. I am Justice, for any of you that don't know. It was brought to my attention you weren't really informed about our process. So basically, if you want to get in contact with us, the easiest way, judicial review form, or leave a note in my office if it's nothing official, but if it's something official, judicial review form. If you want to remain anonymous, anyone, just don't put your name or email, and we will look into whatever your concern is. Obviously, it's much easier if we have someone to go to and question about what they're going through. But yeah, so any concerns at all about AAS or interactions with AAS and students or anything like that, just fill out the form. So, thank you.
Great, thank you so much. Were there any other members of the galley that would like to come forward and present to Senate? Okay. Seeing none, we will now move on to the switch onto section F of our presentation. Okay, so at this time, I will yield the floor to our Office of the President for our first presentation. President Alfred.
Thank you, Chairman. So, before I go into this, I just want to give a little bit of preface this. The Council of Presidents were asked to an urgent meeting last Wednesday. So I do want to say that I appreciate the UC President, Janet Napolitano, actually reaching out to the student leadership more so than previous UC presidents. And some of our input from previous meetings were actually taken into consideration. But we were not involved in how those input were formulated until that meeting, which gave us very little time to actually give any further feedback. So it is an improvement from what used to happen previously, but it needs to be done a lot better. So going forward, I do want to have it noted that I fundamentally reject UC President Janet Napolitano's plan to increase tuition along with my Council of Presidents. Like countless other UC students, I know firsthand the burden such tuition increases can put on students. Having worked throughout my college career to support myself, I will graduate with $62,984 in debt, the equivalent to a year's salary of a well-paying job. At a time when Germany just declared that its university system to be free, our education system is failing to invest in higher education and passing that burden on to us. And yet, with the instances that the tuition increases are inevitable, if so, we as students have still managed to gain some ground. The proposal now includes a stability plan to prevent the tuition spikes that has been occurring every few years, sometimes as high as 40%. The UC set the goal to enroll 5,000 more California students, increase support for services such as mental health, improve student to faculty ratio, and increase class availability to decrease the time to graduation. Given that 65% of UCR students do not graduate in 4 years, it will still be cheaper to graduate in 4 years, even with the tuition increase, than to pay an additional year of tuition at current rates. However, I have serious concerns and questions as to how exactly and to what extent this will be accomplished. So, more so, the UC has guaranteed to continue the blue and gold plan, which currently covers the full tuition of 55% of the UC students, 65% at UCR, and partially give coverage to another 14%. This, in essence, is a progressive taxation system, leaving a little less than a third of the students who make up the middle to upper class to bear most of the burden. Except the problem is that it is being enacted solely on those who attend the UC, when the state and society as a whole benefits from an educated workforce. While I agree that many of these services are badly needed, and it does increase the quality or maintain the quality of the UC, I fundamentally reject the notion that such benefits should come on the backs of already debt-ridden college students. Instead of resorting to this tax system on its students, we need to go to the legislator and the governor for the additional 5% increase for 5 years from state funding if it must be that case. The more we rely on a tuition-based system for sustainability, the more it implies our acceptance of the status quo, that it is okay for the state to not fund our university. We cannot move from our ideals that from what the UC was envisioned to be in the California Master Plan for Higher Education, a free public research university. The UC claims that the fundraising and enacted operational efficiencies saved more than $660 million out of the $1 billion in state funding cuts that were put into effect in 2008. As stakeholders, it's imperative that we get the data to prove that the UC is at its max operational efficiencies as they claim. Granted that salary increases of the chancellor and the total salaries of the top UC administration account for less than 1% of its payroll, but has the UC truly maximized all of its cost efficiencies? Only if it has can the Regent's plan even consider the plan, and if it means doing so is saving us from cutting majors, reducing research, or lowering the quality of our education. But the issue is that not having this information is inherently problematic and compromises our ability to make informed decisions as a student body. So unless this is the only way to sustain the quality of the UC, I ask the Board of Regents to reject this proposal. Taking inspiration from Germany, it is time that our UC administration, Board of Regents, and the people of California rally alongside the students to demand that the state legislator and the governor invest in the future and better prioritizes higher education in the state's budget. Thank you. did ask Vice Chancellor Jim Sandoval to respond to some of our concerns, so if you'd like to.
Certainly, thank you very much. And I also invited our Vice Chancellor for Planning and Budget, Maria Anguiano, who can answer some of the more technical questions. And I think just to begin, that I'd like to maybe put this into the context of the significant and volatile financial situation that students and families have been confronted with going back to 2007. Because at the end of the day, in my mind, that's what the core issue here is, the burden that increased tuition has on families. So yourselves individually, those of you who are having to work, those of you who are having to take out loans, and those of your parents who are having to work in 1, 2, and 3 jobs in order to help contribute to your education. And first and foremost, from my perspective as Vice Chancellor of Student Affairs, that has been the driving concern for me for the past 7 years in looking at the divestment in higher education in the state of California. President Kareem didn't say anything that I didn't fully agree with. All the points I think are well taken, to include holding the university accountable for the $660 million and continuing to ask us what can we do to save on the expense side. Having said that, again, my experience over the last 7 years or so is one that I have directly seen the adverse impacts that the financial circumstance have had on the quality of the educational experience that our students are having. One of the benefits that's been identified is one that hits squarely at home here at UC Riverside, and that is the availability of courses. That coupled with student success. So in 2007, through 2007, 2008, our campus was able to provide a full complement of courses in the sequence that our students needed to graduate in a timely manner. And what we experienced was that was compromised, and we just at this point are beginning to pull out of that in order to provide courses that students need. And I just cite that as one example. I'm not saying that is the be-all, end-all in terms of the arguments, but I can't think of anything that is more direct on students other than access to the courses that they need. The other component, and this hits squarely home at UC Riverside, is the concept of access to the University of California. One of the facts that has been presented is that 7,000 students at the University of California residents, are not funded. So we have on our campus 2,000 students for whom we receive no state funding. And that contributes to some of the compromises in not just course availability but services. What we're trying to do is on a inadequate revenue source for those students, which is the tuition that they're paying, provide the services, make courses available. And that's to be corrected in this plan. And then beyond that, the provision of 5,000 additional admission slots for California residents is significant in terms of accessibility to the University of California. You know, so overall, what does that mean? A total of 12,000 students that are at stake here, that if the state had not divested in funding for the University of California, would be here at the university without any compromises between now, currently, and through the next 5 years. And if something isn't done, limited access to the University of California is going to become more restrictive. And of course we know who that hurts. That hurts students who are from vulnerable backgrounds, disadvantaged backgrounds, lower socioeconomic backgrounds. And that is one of the things that the University of California, specifically this campus, should be very cognizant of. And we're very proud of the fact here at UC Riverside that we've been able to maintain open access to our university. Frankly, I was stunned, dismayed, discouraged this past fall 2014, knowing that we had to deny admissions to 50% of UC eligible students who applied to this campus. So on one hand, oh great, you're becoming more selective, helps with reputation, but the fact of the matter is that those are thousands and thousands of individual students who worked hard to meet the minimum requirements for the University of California who are not able to be here. So those are some of the core issues. To the point in terms of the financial aspect of it, one of the points that President Kareem made that I fully endorse is that this isn't just a University of California problem. It certainly isn't or shouldn't be a student problem. I agree with that as I've read many of the editorials from students across the system. It's one that the entire state needs to grapple with. The governor, the legislature, and one of the things that I do think that the university does deserve some credit for is that at the point that fees had gone through the ceiling, that they did freeze fees in order to help us all make up for it, or to catch our breath, if you will. And now the reality that we're facing is that if something isn't done above and beyond the 4% that the governor's committed to increase, and the legislature to increase funding, that we're going to be facing some difficult choices that will be having adverse impacts on students. And again, yes, absolutely, the university needs to be held accountable for how it spends its money. But even if we came up with more cuts, there are no ifs, ands, or buts in my mind that at least for this campus, I can't speak for the other campuses at the University of California, that students would feel that burden as well, either through limited course availability, limited services, etc. So that's my general response. There are some very specific points in terms of the budget. Maria, I don't know if you wanted to add anything in terms of some of the cost reductions and the $660 million that I know you've been able to do a little research.
Yes, we were able to work with Office of the President and we're able to actually get the 660 and the different areas. I don't know if you want to necessarily read them out loud, but I'll give you a couple examples. We saved almost $130 million on procurement, which is basically the purchasing of goods and services. There was a big initiative that was put forth really system-wide to figure out how to better buy things through contracts and things like that, and so that saved $130 million. There was also a project to better invest the cash that we did have on hand, and that's made $130 million as well over the last 5 years. Some of the other bigger ones is our Connects Us travel program saved us $25 million. We have kind of parent giving, really focusing on fundraising, has managed to increase the budget $40 million. So that's just a few examples, and we can go ahead and provide the list of the full $660 million. I will say though, I've been working pretty hard at looking at our projections going forward, and even with this tuition increase, projecting that we'll need efficiency gains of $90 million just to break even over the next 5 years. So I thought your point was very well taken, that it's not just the efficiencies that have already happened, is that really to make us sustainable, we're going to need both the tuition increases and to really focus on operational efficiencies to keep the same quality that we have now. So I don't know if people have specific questions.
Is there a way to get all those details to us?
Yeah, we can provide some of them.
Thank you. And then, yeah, if you all have more questions, please ask them now. They're here to answer those.
Okay, at this time, we'll take hands for anyone who would like to direct questions. Okay, seeing none. Thank you. And we can expect a distributing the information amongst all the Senate.
Yes.
Okay.
And also, if you come up with any other questions as we're working through this, please feel free to send them to me, and we'll do our best to get direct answers to those questions.
Thank you.
Point of inquiry. I actually had a question. How much money would we be saving? Can I ask the question? Or
yeah.
Yeah. How much money would we be saving if the salaries of staff members weren't increasing?
So the
so like all the
for represented, unrepresented, executive administration. I don't know if you have that number.
No, we don't have that number, but I will say that let's see, over the last 5 years, really the increase has been mostly on the benefit side, as opposed to salary increases. So with the retirement benefits going from basically us paying 0% of what the cost actually was to 14% of total payroll, that's been a 14% increase in total kind of payroll type expenses. But I can get you that specific number.
Yeah, thank you.
If there are no other questions, we can proceed. President ASUCR, is that? Yes. Okay. Thank you. Okay, moving on, we have subsection 2 on another presentation by the Vice President of External Affairs. I will now yield the floor to Abraham Galvan.
All right.
So following that, I wanted to make you all aware. I've already sent you all hopefully invites on Facebook and whatnot. But I personally am planning, as well as a few other folks, we're planning a walkout on the 18th of November. It'll be at 11:15 a.m. that we're calling for the walkout. And after the walkout, we'll have a rally at the bell tower as well. So obviously the reason why we're having this walkout is because UC President Janet Napolitano is proposing that 5% every year for 5 years plan. And if y'all don't know, because it's been obviously marketed as such, but this could potentially lead to a 28% increase in tuition overall, because it's 5% compound every year unless we get the 4% that Governor Brown has already kind of agreed to give us pending a tuition freeze, plus an additional $98 million as well. So first of all, I fail to see how this plan gives us any more stability than we have now, because there's no question there's no question that provides a certainty that the Governor Brown would still give us that 4% increase if the regents adopt this plan, because Governor Brown has only agreed to give us that 4% budget annual increase for the next 2 years based on a tuition increase. This plan does not address that issue, and the governor has not addressed any statement saying otherwise, so we cannot, I think it's incredibly irresponsible for the university to be relying on this assumption that we would somehow get this money plus another $98 million. That is not stability when we don't have any predictability in that regard. So I reject fundamentally that idea, and I think, and so with that 28%, in-state tuition alone could go up to $15,564 within the next 5 years, not including cost of living and other expenses, which we all know are extremely expensive, room and board and what such. And even though the UC Office of the President and the university has been trying to market this as 55% of students won't have to pay more because they're covered fully, that's also something that's incredibly misleading, because though 55% of students do get full financial aid, what's going to happen when more scholarships and grants have to go to that increase in tuition? Students are going to have to make up for the loss of that money that they previously had that was able to go to cost of living, room and board, things like that. So what's going to happen on that end is that they're going to have to take out more loans. Loans are always marketed as financial aid, and though they are helpful in some ways, we already know that student loan debt has surpassed $1 trillion, and that's incredibly problematic for people that are taking out these loans, which tend to be people on the lower income socioeconomic side. So unless that it can be guaranteed that these tuition and fees would be covered specifically by scholarships and grants, and that no more loans would have to be dispersed as a result of this for any costs, including cost of living, we cannot take this as something that is beneficial for low-income students and for financial aid and things like that. That's another thing that needs to be clarified. Also, I wanted to take a second before I go into more details of the plan to read to you a couple of things that, more of things that have surfaced since the release of this plan. For example, the Campaign for College Opportunity published kind of like a graph or whatnot that shows us where the UC is at in terms of where the UC, CSU, and CCC compare to the national average of their counterparts. So the national average for a 2-year public is 3,264. The community colleges in California is 1,380, below the national average. The national average for a 4-year public is 8,893. The CSUs are 6,612, while the UC is $13,200, which is, as you can see, the CSUs are below the national 4-year public, while the UCs are substantially above the national 4-year public. A big reason that the UC keeps making in the sense that the state is disinvesting and whatnot, and I completely agree that the UC has been disinvesting and that the state needs to pick up its investment, but we also need to clarify what the UC is saying, because you can read this at the blog, and they have sources and whatnot on that as well, but it's the Reclaim UC blog. And it says that the actual decline of state funding from 2008 to 2013 is $821 million, or 1.06 billion in inflation-adjusted dollars. While the actual increase in tuition revenue from 2008 to 2013 is 1.48 billion, which is 1.32 billion in inflation-adjusted dollars. So that begs the question: the state has disinvested from the UC. That's true, but we have more than made up for this in the tuition revenue that, based upon the tuition increases that were made within the past few years. So, although they are right that the state has been disinvesting, and this is a problem because tuition should by no means be replacing state investment, where is that extra money that tuition revenue has made up for going to, if they're claiming that the whole purpose of this increase is to bring us back from the state disinvestment? So that's something that I don't think has been addressed yet either. Also, you'll find that expenditures on that administration has been spending more money on itself, just as how President Nafi Karim made. And at the chancellor's meeting on Friday, I asked him, how can you possibly be how can you possibly be accepting a salary increase while your students on this campus are being told that they're possibly going to be getting a tuition increase? And he responded to me by asking me where. So even if he throws his $350,000 in there, where's the rest of the money? As if the fact that he's receiving extra money is any less meaningful based upon that it doesn't make up for the whole lack of money. Yes, I agree, it might be a drop in the bucket, but that salary increase is not the only drop in the bucket, and the UC has failed to provide us with the accurate amount of data so that we can see that. They presented their information to the Council of Presidents and UCSA within 24 hours of this release, and they had no data available as to what alternatives they considered and why those alternatives were rejected. And when I asked the chancellor about these, he agreed that there was not sufficient information regarding those alternatives available, yet he was not willing to rescind his support for this plan, which he told me he only received the details of on that Wednesday. Yet he was able to form a full opinion on this and sign a statement with the other chancellors that night and release something. If that's true, that's incredibly irresponsible on the part of the chancellor to be making a decision for which he did not have details on that affects students so severely within such little time. He did not address this, and I'm still waiting for a response from the chancellor in regards to this. The Reclaim UC, we can also see graphs that management grew by 252%. So obviously, yes, maybe the administrative salaries aren't that much, but when we look at the amount of that management has grown and the amount that salaries that management makes on campuses, that's also data that, where is it? Today we ask for these numbers, they're obviously not readily available. Those numbers need to be out there before the regions can be making a vote. And if they don't have this information out there, and just like Nafi said, if there's no rigorous consultation process with students when you're proposing a tuition plan that's going to affect them, that's problematic. That's a little bit. We can also see that the Press Democrats also outlined one issue that I think with this is the fact that Napolitano was hired to do politics. That's not a question in my mind. Obviously, I don't know about you all, but that's what I think. She was hired to do politics. It's a highly political issue, and she's doing politics right now. But I question whether Napolitano has the ability to really go toe-to-toe with the governor like this, and why the UC is doing this with students as their political pawns. That's incredibly irresponsible. Even if the UC is pressuring the state, the UC should be doing this with students behind it. We should both together be saying, state, why are you not investing enough money in us? We should not be tools of the UC to get this money. That's incredibly irresponsible. And what's at stake here is that the governor won't give us those 4% increases that he's already planned, and that he's going to say, you know what, no, I don't like being played with, so I'm not going to give you these increases. And then what? Who's going to suffer? It's not going to be Napolitano. She's still going to get her salary. She's still going to get her benefits. It's not going to be the chancellor. He's still going to get his salary increase that he just received. He's still going to get his benefits, right? It's not going to be our management. It's not going to be the vice chancellors, the management on campus. They're not going to be suffering. It's going to be students that are going to be receiving that are going to be at the butt of this tuition increase. Shame, yes, exactly, that's a damn shame. And that's not being addressed. So I want the chancellor, if he's gonna be an ally to students, to say, you know what, if this tuition goes through, I'm gonna reject my salary increase. Because that's what I came here. I came here understanding that my wage was gonna be at a certain level, and if I wasn't willing to do that, then I shouldn't be here. And that's just my personal opinion. Y'all can read my press release that I released to the Highlanders Spoil Minds. I realize there's not that many local newspapers. I send it to the press enterprise. We'll see like who covers it and whatnot. But I make that specific demand in light of the fact that the chancellor seemed not at all concerned of the fact that we barely had any time to respond to this and to be involved in a consultation process. That's incredibly disappointing to me because he just came in and this is when he should really be making an effort to be an ally to students. And the regions should not be balancing their budgets on our backs. There's been multiple sources that have outlined different ways in which the UC can save money and that they haven't done. For example, ASME 3299, I think their president released a statement about the outsourcing of jobs, and I'll just read it to you. It says, at UC Davis Medical Center and UC San Francisco, UC has squandered nearly $4 million on just 2 outside contracts for custodial work since 2011. The owners of the 2 contracts, A&E at UC Davis and Impact Group at UCSF, pay nearly 100 employees who are predominantly young people of color as little as $10.74 to $15 an hour with no benefits and no voice on the job. Had the UC system simply brought these subcontracted employees in-house and provided them with the same living wages and secure benefits as other UC workers, it would have saved almost $1 million. That's just from 2 contracts. There are dozens more system-wide. So we need to get answers in response to all of this. I know that Lieutenant Governor Gavin Newsom will be addressing this particular issue. He's already done so in a statement released by him. But the fact of the matter is, there's too many questions here, right? There's too many things that we need to be able to address. It's by no means, I think, at least I personally don't think that it's by any means a coincidence that we received this information little to no days or weeks in advance. It impedes our ability to organize. But I can tell you what, that's not going to matter because we're still organizing and we will still be out there on the 18th here on campus. We'll be out there rallying. We'll walk out of the classrooms in the sense that that's exactly symbolic of what's going to happen if this tuition increase goes through. Because I guarantee you that a parent inside their home isn't thinking, hey, let me budget out these tuition increases that's going to take place over here. That's not what they care about. They care about the actual cost of attending the university. And when that cost reaches $15,600, that is not an affordable university. That is not an accessible university. You can add as many students as you want, but that's still not an accessible university. And tuition already pays more into the system than does the state funding. We're not a public university anymore. That's problematic. So I have urged the UC Regents to not support this, and I've urged the Chancellor to be an ally to students on this issue. Let's see if they follow through, and I really hope that I can see you all there on the 18th at 11:15 a.m. I hope that on the 19th, as many of you as possible can make it out to UC San Francisco. I'll be there. And we'll hopefully try to get more people out there as well. That's my presentation. I just wanted to bring to light more things, and I wanted to make sure I was able to follow up on some things as well. So thank you all.
At this time, I can take hands for questions or comments from Senate or the galley. Vice Chancellor.
Sure. I don't want to at all dispute anything that Abraham had to say. Just a couple of points of clarification because the facts do matter. That in terms of the tuition increase outpacing the state reductions, that the important factor, and I don't have the numbers and we can go back and get them, the important factor is that over that 5-year period there actually were cost increases. You know, cost of inflation, there were some, the unions negotiated higher salaries for staff, and so those mandated increases had to be paid, et cetera. So there was a need for additional money. I'm not arguing with you or disputing that that's not an important point that needs clarification, and we can get that information. The second point, in terms of the alternatives, we have made that request for the alternatives. It's forthcoming. As soon as we have it, we will provide it to you. Okay, so that information is forthcoming. And then just on the outsourcing, that as well is something that has been recently registered as a concern, where that information is being collected as well. So as soon as that, and not by UCR, but UC. And then the last thing I wanted to invite Vice Chancellor Anguiano to talk about a little bit about the breakdown of the expenses and the cost increase, where how the university's budget is broken down in terms of costs for instruction, academic salaries, so salaries of faculty versus staff and other things as well. But it looks like you might have had a point or a rebuttal.
Yeah, I had a question.
Sure.
And that's if you think it's important for us to have access to this data and alternatives before the regents make a vote.
I do, and I believe that information is forthcoming. So it would be part of the information that's presented at the regents meeting as they're considering it.
As they're considering it, or do you think we should have enough sufficient time to be able to review this before they make a vote?
I think it will be out in the next couple of days or so.
And you think that's sufficient time before the meeting?
Actually, I do.
You do?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I do.
Okay.
Because there's the university's budget is nothing but transparent. I mean, there have been discussions related to the university costs. There have been general discussions about the fact that that the university's budget was going to hit a point at which we can no longer provide access, and that has been part of discussions throughout. So as far as the alternatives, in concept, they're pretty fundamental. It's a matter of what direction we want to move. Access being a huge one, because that is the easiest point for everybody to come to terms with. Is if we limit enrollment at the University of California, that tuition wouldn't necessarily have to go up. And as I mentioned, at our campus, we have 2,000 students for whom we have not received any state money. So.
Yeah, I thought I could just spend a little time maybe breaking down the budget numbers for you. Like I said, I can email this out actually tonight. I was still working on it pretty much until this meeting because some of the information, you're right, hadn't been available and provided to us, but we have requested it and we've gotten it. So for UC Riverside specifically, our budget has increased about $85 million from 2008 to 2013. Of that, I'll give you kind of a breakdown by function and then by type of expense. So instructional expenses increased by 23%. Financial aid increased 51%. And student services increased 53%. That was most of the money that was spent. Now when I look at it by budget category, 90% of that was basically benefits, financial aid, and academic salaries. So when I look at staff salaries from 2008, it was like $138 million, and it went up to $150. So about $23 million increase on the staff salary. For benefits, that's the one I told you had been a very big increase, and so that was $45 million increase between now and 2008. Financial aid went up $14 million, and academic salaries went up about $13 million. And like I said, I can provide this information as soon as we're done here. But that's kind of the breakdown of where the money's been spent, at least since 2008 to today.
Just as clarification, who exactly is included in that staff category?
Everybody. Anyone that's not academic, basically. So we have academic salaries, so all the faculty, and then staff salary includes everybody from, your janitor to the chancellor.
Vice President Alcala.
Can we have the disaggregated data on those?
On the
staff salary increases, yeah. Because I think the chancellor's a lot different from the janitors. I don't know, I at least I feel that way.
Right. Here, I will tell you that it's the majority of the groups that cause the rise, right? It's not necessarily the chancellor's salary, but I agree. I think it's important that you all have that. Now, I will tell you though, it's been, I've been here since February. our systems are not great. It takes a long time to pull this data, which is why I couldn't even why I was working on it until late today. So while I can get you that data, I don't know if I'll be able to get it to you I can get it to you within a week, but it actually takes, and this is one of the efficiencies. I mean, I'm here to make sure that we get our efficiencies done, because this is sort of the report that I should be able to hit a button and get it for you, right? That's the type of efficiencies where I don't need my staff to spend 20 hours pulling this information and spending extra money, right? That causes increases in necessary staff when you don't have the necessary infrastructure. So that's the type of efficiency I think we need to be looking for over the next few years. But it is something I can get you, but I just don't know the timing.
Thank you.
And just one other example of the efficiencies that has a direct impact on students is that this campus actually has made an investment in the purchase and implementation of the new student information system. I think we've talked about it at some point, maybe it was last year, with an understanding that a tremendous pressure that's been placed on students is limited availability of academic advisors. So what the idea is to leverage off of technology to provide more effective self-help tools for students, so that we limit the staff hiring in a manner that or to the extent that we just need to have staff to deal with students where the system just falls adequate. What we're doing is trying to adhere to what's known as Pareto's Law for those of you in business, where basically 80% of the students or your clientele can basically tend to their own needs, and you have to have infrastructure in order to deal with the 20% or so that need some specialized support. Given our previous system, the way it's structured is that we probably had to provide and currently have to provide support to probably direct support to more than 50 or 60% of our students, which we have inadequate staff to do that. So that's just another example. And Abraham, on your question in terms of the time frame, I realize that it's a tight time frame. If you'd asked me the general question, should there been a greater opportunity for discussion, I would say yes. At this point, given the limited time frame and the fact that it is going to the regents, again, we're fully dedicated to giving you the information that you need to facilitate the lobbying that you need to do, the arguments that you need to pull together. But as we talked about in the Chancellor's office, in terms of the fundamental funding mechanisms for universities, they're few and far between. I mean, you can generate revenue, you can cut expenses, and again, expenses have been cut significantly, or you can look at the fundamental charge and mission of the institution and change it. And again, so that's the whole access thing, is that okay, or not having faculty do research, but then that compromises the quality of the institution and the value of your education, especially undergraduate research opportunities. So I don't mean to be overly simplistic, but at the end of the day, there's limited options to deal with unless you want to change the fundamental way that the University of California looks and what its charge is.
Vice President, you have that one?
No, yeah, I totally agree that fundamentals are important, just like, the master plan says that the UC should be a free institution. I think that's a huge fundamental that is also important, that the UC should also be upholding, right? The quality of our education should by no means be sacrificed by cuts in the budget, but at the same time, there's a certain point where the UC needs to realize that not all of that has been cut, and if they're going to be proposing a tuition plan, that should be tied to cuts in that, or that should be tied to, for example, freezes on administrative salary increases. The tuition plan doesn't make any allowance for a freeze in salary increases. And so what I'm having trouble understanding is how the UC can use us as political pawns to get more money from the state without tying to, with any binding agreement, the fact that there will be cuts on these other areas, or that we will be receiving an actual report of full-fledged alternatives and rationales for why they're rejected. And if we're being told that there's not sufficient time, I don't see how, by any means, any of our administration on our campus can be supporting something that they are admitting has not had enough time for us to be able to look at the data and to break that down. because by no means, like, if we receive it in a week, you said that's enough time for us to review that, but I really don't think so. We're going to class, we also have other things to do, plus we're obviously not necessarily as qualified to be looking over it as we could, for example, get somebody else to do it, and that's not going to happen within a second. Somebody's not going to sit down and look at all this data and compile reports and responses within with little less than a week to go. And so that's why I'm having issues with it. I'm not necessarily saying that we shouldn't be looking at the future of our institution and how we're going to fund it while maintaining the fundamentals, but there's also fundamental issues with this and just the procedural way that this tuition plan was proposed that haven't been addressed. The only thing that's been addressed is the actual focuses on the points in the tuition plan, as if the tuition plan and the way it was proposed was valid and legitimate to begin with. The legitimacy and the validity of this plan has to be questioned, and that's where you need to start off with, not already assuming that this plan is valid, legitimate, and has received enough rigorous consultation from students to merit even being considered by the regents. That hasn't been addressed.
Right, so I think your point's well taken, and please note that neither Maria or I made any attempt to deal with the political, strategical aspects of the fee increase. And the points that you made about that are very well taken. I don't understand the politics between the Office of the President and the legislature and the governor's office. That's for the folks at OP, and we can't address that. But having heard your argument, I think your points are very well taken on that front.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, and I agree. In fact, when I first started working on our UCR data, the first thing I wanted to put on the page was how are we using our money and what was it going to mean right over the future in terms of operational efficiencies, et cetera. I mean, that's how I approach the situation. Again, as Jim mentioned, we don't necessarily have control over what Office of the President and how their strategy rolls out. I did want to point out just a couple facts to keep in mind. One is that the state investment since 1990 to now it used to be the state paid 80% of our total costs, and that is down to 42%, right? And so I think you're right, it should be free, but when it has that much of a decrease, there's only so many funding sources we have available to keep the same quality. And the total cost per student has actually decreased by 12% since 1990 as well. So if you look at the cost per student, there have been efficiencies over time, but again, the cost has been going down, but the price, unfortunately, has had to go up, right? And look, this is coming from somebody who made a college choice over $500. I made a decision to go to a college because my financial aid package was $500 better than the other one, so I get it. But when I look at the numbers for UC Riverside, even with the operational efficiencies, I don't see how we can break even without this.
Vice President, you have a response?
Yeah, I did have a question as to, you're saying that the cost per student went down. However, I received, I'm trying to find it just so that I can be accurate in what I ask you. So, just 1 second. But I want to ask about the way that the way that cost per students is developed, like on our campus and through the UC, because I really wish I had this right away. I have it in my. I'm sorry, y'all. Sorry, I just want to make sure I get it right. Thank you. Okay, so I have it now, and I can send this to you as well. It's from Professor Schwartz, or Professor Emeritus Charles Schwartz at Berkeley, and he wrote kind of, I guess he compiled, he did some data or research in regards to the cost of attendance at the UC, and his conclusion was that he calculated the UC's actual expenditures for undergraduate education in 2013 to 2014 at an average of $7,500 per student. And this number was compared to the official UCOP claim published in November 2013 that the per student average expenditure for education was $19,590 for that same year. And it was also compared to the average annual charge, which was for resident undergraduate students, $13,222. And so I wanted to see if we could get more information on how that's assessed, because in the paper documents that he sent, he said that the only response that he received from UCOP with regards to this was that that's just how all the other universities do calculate their cost of attendance, and without addressing the actual calculations or how much cost of attendance actually was, or the merit of his argument. And I can send this out to everybody as well as to you all if you would like it, but can you answer that as well, on how that cost of attendance
I've
was?
spoken to Professor Joyce,
Okay.
actually, about his methodology. I mean, verbally, be frank, he doesn't understand accounting, because actually at first, when I was like, oh wow, this is really interesting, and I went to talk to him in person so I could get to know, and I asked him very specific questions, and then it turns out he's like, well, actually I have no background in accounting or finance. And so, you know, to go through this, the way that UC does it is the way the national standard is, and it's by taking kind of what's called the IPEDS categories, which is it's one of the actually categories I have in this information that we'll send you. But it's basically has categories like instruction, academic support, institutional support, research. What he's done is breaking down that instruction number and taking things into consideration. So for example, he randomly assumed that faculty spent X amount of time on research, and therefore he wasn't counting that cost, right? And so, I mean, we'd have to really sit down and go through the exact calculation. But I can tell you that I don't think that the way he calculated was very standardized, in my opinion. So, but happy to go through it.
So IPEDS is a national norming.
Yeah.
So, okay, just to make sure this.
We always forget to stand for. It's like the integrated post-secondary education database.
Senator Brown.
Good evening. I'd like to know what is the actual cost incurred to this university on outside services, and secondly, what is being done to sort of, I guess, alleviate some of those costs where they're inefficient?
And what kind of outside services?
So, for example, our athletics, from what I understand, every second and every moment of every game that's played in our center is owned by a company called Learfield Sports. So everything that goes through this athletics department then goes through Learfield Sports, and this is what I understand. And so I've faced some barrier with this company, and so I just like to know, what are we actually spending on outside vendors, particularly these particular vendors that take away access to certain things that should be actually taken care of by this university and should be accessible to students?
Well, I don't have the answer to that right now, but I think actually given the procurement initiative that I talked about earlier that had $130 million in savings, we now have a system where I should be able to actually get that information to you very quickly. But I don't have the number off the top of my head because that's not the way. The expense categories, you know, the non-salary costs, I can actually tell you the non-salary costs at UC Riverside went from $188 million in 08 to 184. So they've actually decreased by $4 million, not a ton, but over the last 5 years, we actually decreased our non-salary costs. So that's kind of, they're not all outside costs, but that's kind of the big chunk that's basically non-kind of personnel related.
Okay, and I guess a follow-up would be, although you say that the costs are going down, is there any way for us to know what type of freedoms students are giving up when we actually bring on these type of vendors? For example, this Learfield Sports, if I wanted to say, if ASUCR wanted to do some type of promo at halftime, we would have to go through Learfield Sports. Why is that? And so I guess what I'd like to know is what type of freedoms are we giving up when we do access these outside vendors?
I can inquire about at least athletics, in terms of other outside vendors, I think it's probably a case-by-case basis.
Okay. Are there any other questions at this time? Okay, seeing none.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking our questions, and we expect the data as you mentioned by tonight, is it?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Now proceeding. We will now move on to ex officio reports. And so at this time, if there are any ex officios in the gallery right now that would like to present to Senate, please step forward and state your name for our minutes. Please stop all side chatting.
Alright, my name is Jorge Jauregui, and last week, just to refresh, last week I told you guys about the 3 events we'll be holding next quarter for CSP, Chicano Latino, Chicano Student Programs. But today I just want to briefly touch upon the Chicano Latino Youth Conference. And we basically we are in the process of outreaching to you all, and I just want to say that we need the funds now more than ever, because we are expecting a large amount of high school students from all over the greater Los Angeles area, and we really want to make an impact on those students when we teach them and talk to them about higher education. And just to wrap it up, we really want to have a successful event, and hopefully it will benefit not only the students and CSP and Raza Assembly, but also UCR as a whole. And that'll be it. Thank you guys.
Great, thank you so much. Were there any other ex officios in attendance? Okay. Oh, yes, Senator Hebron.
Could you tell us when the event is going to be and give us a little bit more information about what activities you guys are going to do for the students?
Yes. Okay. So this event, the one I just touched on, it's only one of them. The youth conference, it'll be Saturday, April 25th, 2015. So it'll be next year. And what was the other? You said a date?
The activities.
Oh, the activities, alright.
May I intervene?
Yes.
So for anyone who does not know, the conference is put on by students, so as for activities and workshops that will be taking place, those are actually all put on by students, hosted by students, and invited to any student who would want to put on this workshop. So for example, last year we had one, Empowering Chicanas. We had mainly focusing on financial aid, higher education, allowing students to understand the opportunities that they have in college. Also, we had several keynote speakers come in. We had also provided lunch, and I just wanted to make also a point that it is not only limited to the Los Angeles area. We do get a large amount of students, but last year we had 900 students travel from all of California, Northern and Southern California, as well as different campuses who held workshops. We also had several workshops put on that day by students coming from Northern California who felt the need, and we made adjustments to our schedule to include their workshops as well.
Great, thank you. Are there any other questions? Okay, seeing none. Thank you, Jorge, for coming up. Okay, if there are no other ex officios in attendance, we will now move on to section H of our agenda, committee and office reports. First, on subsection 1, we have our finance committee. We will bring up the minutes onto the screen. And Iris, I will go to you.
Hi everyone. So during this past finance meeting, first we have passed the allocation for additional, not additional, but reconfiguration of the accounting office. So just a little background, as you all may be aware, the front office of ASUCR has gone through some construction and remodeling to make it more spacious for students so that when they come in, they can actually sit down and wait for their meetings. And this is basically just like the last part of it. If you have all seen Maggie's office, she is the organization specialist funding, and if you have seen her office, she works basically in a cubicle, so all her walls are just like really high, and she doesn't really have room for students when she needs to meet them. She can only fit like 2 students who they can't even sit in there. They can like stand when she's sitting, and it's really difficult for her to have meetings with the organizations. So this part of the remodeling is basically to take down the cubicle walls and then make it more spacious, and so where students can actually sit and have like a meeting with her. And the allocation was passed for $2,435.84. A lot of it had to do with labor and the taxes. And the additional, the organization fundings are as follows. We allocated $750 to Discover Nursing, $1,098 to the Student Association, $908 to Shadow ND, $750 to International Chinese Student Association, $998 to Skateboard Longboard ASUCR, $825 to Queer Alliance Association of Pacific Islanders, $750 to Pacific Islander, $998 to Be a Hero, Become a Donor, $133 to Flying Samaritans, and $313 to Dance for ASUCR, and the last 2 organizations are on review. Do you have any questions, concerns? Okay. Can I motion to have I motion to pass these allocations?
Okay, motion by Vice President of Finance Ira Shane to pass budget allocations. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Fabian Escobedo. All those in favor? Opposed? And abstain. Okay, by a vote of 1501, this motion passes. Sorry, 1401, this motion passes. Okay, moving on. Subsection 2, Office of Internal Affairs. We yield the floor to Campus Internal Affairs. Sorry, we yield the floor to Commander.
All right, so just a couple updates. The first one's going to be, I had a meeting up in Oakland last Friday. I actually sit on the UC System-wide Boards Committee, which is the Board of Relations in Schools. So there's a couple things we discussed that I just wanted to kind of update everyone on. One of the first things that I kind of found a little problematic is that the board is actually considering reviewing AP classes. So essentially what they're trying to do is that they've seen that a lot of the academic senates have been opposed to giving AP credit for certain courses. So essentially it will limit the amount of AP classes and what kind of credit you'll get. And the only one they really kind of want to keep is the English one. So if you take like an English Lit or something, that's the only one that you'll actually get credit for. But things like math, physics, any of those classes, you won't actually get any college credit course. You won't get any college credit. And then, so that's what they actually are proposing to do, and they want to limit a lot of the classes, and that's across the UC system. So they want to standardize that, and then pretty much it makes the AP system obsolete, essentially. It's the same thing they kind of did with the IB classes, because IB classes also don't give you a lot of credit in a lot of different universities. So essentially, this is what they're kind of they're going to propose this in the next coming month. So that's the first thing that's kind of problematic. The next thing that I kind of want to move into, it can be seen as good and bad. UCR is going to be entering holistic review soon. It's not happening currently right now, but this is the same method that UC Berkeley, UCLA, they employ a similar review process. Pretty much it's exactly as it sounds. A holistic review, they go over your application, any external factors, anything that's kind of like your entire character is kind of reviewed. So Berkeley and UCLA already do this, and that's how that's how they do their accepting rates. It tends to happen, I think Jim actually mentioned this earlier, that we denied 50% of the applications. So we're at the threshold where now we can enter this process. And essentially what happens is usually the academic senate reviews the applications, and then they do the holistic review from there. And right now, what I think from what I heard from the representative of UCR, what she said is that we're actually just having a little bit of issues funding the Senate to actually like do the entire process. So that's what I heard for now, but we're probably going to enter that process soon within the next couple of years, or maybe even next year. As far as the gold standard for the University of California goes, the gold standard is as long as you meet all the requirements for UC system, you're guaranteed admission to UC school, right? And generally that school falls to UC Merced. That's where all the referrals go. What they said is that now that with the increase of students actually applying to the UC, that gold standard is pretty much also going to become obsolete. So only like the creme of the creme will actually be admitted to UC Merced. So the referral pool is actually going to be also going to go undergo a 7x7 review, or it's essentially like a condensed holistic review. And that's the way that those students are going to get in from now on. So essentially we've reached our capacity, so to say. So that along with the tuition increases, we're having an entire problematic structure that's about to implode over the next several years. We're reaching our capacity limits as a UC system. They do have proposals to create a new UC. I don't know if any of you have heard of that, but that's also in the works, and that's another whole problem in itself. So there's a lot of issues that we're not addressing, and I think that a lot of students are unaware of. As far as reaching capacity, how many more students are we going to have to admit because they don't have enough money to come in? Now we have to accept other students that are higher on the economic scale just because they can't pay. So you see it like there's disadvantaged groups that are being kind of moved around, and as the UC becomes even more and more prestigious, so to say, it's going to be harder for just any students, and the master plan of education is failing essentially. So that is another thing. But then I don't know if you've heard of Berkeley's academic policy on athletes. Just to give an update on that, they pretty much made sure that any athlete that's going into their athletics program has to meet the UC requirements. Before they had a little bit of leeway, like with athletes, like they could like be on just on the brisk or a little below, you know. But now the academic senate has actually voted unanimously to kind of put them at a certain level, and all athletes have to do that. It's going to have a trickle-down effect on all the other UCs that also don't employ the same methodology. So essentially, what's going to end up happening that the academic senate brought up, which is going to be a side effect of all this, is that there's going to be an increased cost in our athletic programs. Because essentially now they have to recruit students who also meet the academic goals as well as the talent goals. So that means going out and getting more recruiters, spending more money on their athletics programs. So there's all these other costs that are not going to be talked about and they're not open to the public that are going to actually start to aggregate and become part of our problem. So that's just a little bit to kind of give you a sense of what's going on with that committee. I can answer any more specific questions as to like all the different things we covered, and I'll have a larger report that I'm going to submit to UCSA for their review. My next update is going to be for GCAP. Last year, there was in my bylaws, it was actually asked of me to create a GCAP director position. After a review and consultation of my executive cabinet, I have decided that I'm not going to go forward with the director program. Instead, I'm going to elevate the status of the GCAP coordinator and give them a little bit of a pay raise instead, and then give them a lot more duties. So instead of creating an entirely new director position, I'm just going to give them more responsibility for her, as well as just kind of giving a little bump in the raise instead of adding someone else to the horseshoe. And I didn't want to absorb personnel committee because that was the idea, to taking personnel into my office. But I see a huge conflict of interest there because now the person that would be in my position also has control of who goes into what committees. And I think if you leave that all in the power of one person, that can become extremely problematic. So that's why I went against the bylaw, and I'll be reviewing that later on. I also said on the HUB board this meeting, which is the HUB's governing board. We voted on having Abraham become the vice chair, so congratulations to him. There was also another update on HUB 2. The HUB 2 project may also be delayed, also due to the LRDP undergoing its review process. So essentially what they said is that now that we're reviewing the LRDP, we want to see strategically where Hub 2 can actually fit. And that may delay the process a couple years. And some students may want the Hub 2 right now. It's a resource that we absolutely need for our student body, and we see that we have a lot of space issues and capacity issues. So I find that also a little problematic that we are kind of like in this weird gray area where, oh, I don't know if we're going to consider Hub 2 anymore, or maybe it's going to be left to the LRDP, and we don't know where it's going to be left in the LRDP. So that's another issue that came up, and then we just voted on some other things like allocating spaces for certain groups to come in, and we waived a couple fees for them. As far as the LRDP codes, I'll be sitting as a committee member on the sustainable portion of the LRDP, so I'll have my voice heard in that, and then your president's also going to be on the steering committee for the LRDP, so you have a lot of student voice in those. But the one thing I will find problematic is that the other portions of the LRDP, which are like another 6, don't have any real students on them other than just faculty and management positions. It's really only me and Nafi that have a position in the LRDP, and I think it shouldn't just be us two. It should also be students that are outside this horseshoe, more students that are in this horseshoe, and then just students that are prospective. So there's a lot of issues going on, I think. I just wanted to update you all, but that's all I have.
Vice President Norbaum.
Yeah.
And Senator Summershade.
Can you tell us like what structure in terms of like the people that are like you and Nafi that are going to be on there? Because I already know the version that the UC and that this campus has in terms of student consultation. I don't know how much I agree with it. So what kind of actual consultation, like will you be a voting member? Like how does that work?
As far as where I'm sitting, I don't really have a vote, so to say. I just kind of sit at the table and I'm allowed to speak if I want to. Where Nafi's at, it's not exactly a voting position. You refer like the proposal, you say it went through all the right mechanisms, and here you go Chancellor, here you go Vice Provost. Here's what we think is going to be the best idea. You have the option to deny it or not, and they can edit it as they want. But it's really just us being like, this is what we want, but you can see what you want to do about it, or what you don't want to do about it. So it's essentially like there's not a lot of power that we have, to be honest.
Senator Summershade.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, in the committee, did they mention a proposed year for implementation of the standardization of the AP courses? Did they mention a year that would be implemented?
So we're going to be having, that conversation is going to happen next month, so we'll see when they want to try to employ it. I just know that there's a couple other auxiliary committees that want to pass it soon. So it could, in fact, start next year if they really wanted to push it that hard. And Senator Conrad. Can I say one more thing? Yeah. So there's also, just to also clarify, there's another thing going on as well that I forgot. Now that the K-12 system has also shifted to Common Core, there's also going to be a shift in our requirements as well. So we have to work together with K-12 and see how they're going to set up their Common Core, and there's going to be a large change and shift in how we're going to accept people. What are they going to learn now? So we have to adapt to what they're learning. So there's a lot of things that are going to actually be in play in the next couple of years.
I don't know, this is sort of like a comment or something. I want to add to your report. I sit on the Preparatory Education Committee here through the Academic Senate. And one thing that I took from that meeting is that there is now going to be a sort of like a heavy focus on international student recruitment. And I think that could be something that is problematic. I'm not saying deny education, but these institutions are domestic institutions. They're here to serve these communities. And when we have a situation where we're aggressively and actively pursuing international dollars, I think that becomes problematic for students here domestically. Not us, but students that are coming after us. And so that's one thing that I wanted to make everybody aware of. Second thing is you mentioned that we could possibly incur fees through student athletics and the way recruitment would have to be conducted in the future if we want to first meet students with the talent and then students with the grades. It's something that I find very problematic. It's something that bothers me a lot, coming from an area where a lot of individuals think that it's sports that is going to allow them to make it in life. One thing that we can start with so we don't incur costs is outreach to individuals in those schools. Right now, the NCAA requirement is a mere 2.3 to get into be active, be eligible for sports. And I think that's problematic in itself. So really what you have is a coach that tells his players, hey, just stay eligible. What does that mean? Just do the bare minimum. What does that really mean? We just need you to play ball. So there's a lot of individuals that suffer. They don't get the right academic attention because they're told just to make the grade, just make the cut. And so that's something that we can probably look into. Having the NCAA raise those standards, raise the academic eligibility. 2.5 is not bad, that's still bad, but 2.3 is worse. But here's the catch. If you go on the NCAA website, you'll find 2 jerseys. They're red and black, and they're number 23, which is symbolic of the greatest athlete that America knows, Michael Jordan. So basically, if you get to 23, you can be 23. What are we really telling our younger generation of athletes?
Vice President Fernando Echeverria actually had a question. Before I go on that, quickly to the Senate, if you all have like water, like right next to the microphones, could you guys put those like under your seats? I've had issues before of just spilling it, and they're like $300 to replace. So yeah, if you do have any members, you just kind of place them under things. And to build off of Senator King's point, could you elaborate a little bit on how the change criteria on how the UC is going to recruit on athletics would mean an increased cost?
So essentially, from what I heard from the Berkeley Academic Senate Chair, this is something that they didn't really consider that the university talked to them after about. The fact that now you have students, you have to get competitive students pretty much. So essentially now you have the bar like at a 2.3, so to say. Now you're recruiting students that have to make the 3.0. Typically those other students will go to more prestigious universities, typically like better athletic programs, so to say, depending on the sport. So now you have the UCs fighting to maintain their dominance as top athletic programs, so you're pulling students that are traditionally going to like highly funded Ivy League like funded sport programs and shifting and taking students here. So that increases the cost because now you have to give them a good package essentially, you know. And then you also have to spend a lot more human resources to go and get these students as well.
Yeah, to build on Akeem's point, or just a question, is there a way the UC can lobby the NCAA to raise their standards, since we as a university are raising our standards?
I mean, I don't really have an answer to that question. I mean, we can try to have the conversation
start.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, great, thank you. Were there any other questions on the floor?
Yeah, just to one last thing to expand on that. I really see a problem because, like I said, where I'm from, a lot of guys think that the way out is through the athletics. And so now if they're not even being considered with their 2.3s, then they really don't have an opportunity to make it out of their current situation. So I can really see how this can become very, very problematic.
Great, thank you.
Yes. Just to give like a final talking point, like what that academic senate did is a good thing, like what's doing, like raising the bar for the athletes, but at the same time there's these other costs that are happening because of that. So it's just like things that we have to take in consideration when we're making different decisions on things. So I just wanted to bring light to that.
Great, thank you. Okay, if there are no additional questions, we can move on to subsection 3 on committee reports. We have our Personnel Director, Ashley Garana. I will now give the floor.
Hi everyone. Okay, so although we know that there's other committees that still require senators, the only 2 committees I'm going to be talking about today is the Elections Committee and the Outreach Committee, because I've been in communication with Elections Director Stephanie and Outreach Director Jessica. So to start with elections, this committee is filled at its bare minimum working condition, which is a good thing because now Stephanie can begin working with her committee. But we are both requesting that 1 senator and 1 student still contacts me to be a part of this committee. So I'm charging senators, if you're graduating this year, it would be a really great thing for not only me and Stephanie, but also for you and for the elections process this coming year, because we're already thinking about that. It'd be really great if the senators who are graduating would consider joining this committee and talking with me and Stephanie about placement here. And then moving on to outreach, the General Outreach Committee wants 2 more students. It could be another senator or it could be 2 more students. This committee is going to begin its work, but it would be very helpful, just like with elections, to have more students a part of this, just because the workload is large. My third point is, this is specifically for the senators. Please be sure to check your emails. Me and ECAB and other directors are sending you information. Specifically, I've been sending emails about committees, and it is really important that you do read these and that you do respond, because chairs are waiting for your response. I'm going to have to say an announcement because I don't think I'll be able to be here for the roundtable and announcements portion. But on behalf of UCR's cheer team, homecoming is this Saturday at 4 p.m. We're playing against UC San Diego, and it should be really exciting. And the first 100 people to get there get a free T-shirt. Thank you. That's all.
Great, thank you so much, Ashley. Okay, we will now proceed with our agenda on Section I, collaboration. We will first hear from Senator Reed Blake.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you to the Galley members for being present and making comments, as well as everyone else on the horseshoe. My collaboration was pertaining to some things that myself and some senators, as well as some delegation members from UCR, spoke to other people that went to the Students of Color Conference about, which just took place this past weekend. Basically what we wanted to do is start a campus-wide initiative with all of the other UCs to promote awareness to have a Women's Awareness Month. I'm not aware of what we already have, but the respective campuses and the representatives from those respective campuses weren't really aware of anything that we do to promote and to clear the misconceptions regarding feminism and equity. So if that is something that interests you all, please talk to myself, Summer, or Devin. We are the people within ASUCR who are working on that initiative. So yeah, basically we just want to promote more awareness, so do come up and speak to us if you want to collaborate. Thanks.
Okay. Were there any other, yes?
I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm Susan Ortega, Assistant Vice Chancellor of Student Affairs, and through the spring and fall, we've been working with some faculty and some graduate students and Women's Resource Center and Student Life and the Well to put together a series that we're calling the Gender Respect Series, and it's focusing on the kinds of issues and concerns that you raised, and I'd like to follow up and collaborate and see how we might be able to work together.
Okay. Yeah, that's definitely something I'd be interested in. I'd also, so when speaking to you and after receiving more information about that series that you plan to host, I will make it my duty to reach out to the other respective UC campuses so it can be a UC initiative, because a problem that we did encounter and that we spoke about was that there wasn't much awareness about the programs that we did have, and it should be a campus-wide initiative because it is a misconception that largely infiltrates our campuses. So I'll definitely reach out to you sometime this week. Thank you.
Great. Yes. Were there any other questions or comments, collaborations, input at this time from Seth? Okay. Seeing that, we can now proceed. Another person we had added to collaboration was our Marketing Promotions Director, Leah Fod. Yield the floor to him.
Yeah, just real quick, everyone. I don't know if you saw my groupie this morning, but something that's been brought up that would be a really great idea for ASUCR to collaborate with is kind of do a quarterly digest and update the student body on what Costa Hall is doing. We have some great programs, but unfortunately sometimes the entire student body may not be up to date on the resources they offer, who they represent, events that they do. and just generally what the center is about. So for that, if any senators or any member of the galley would like to collaborate with me, we're going to be starting meetings and finding out what each ethnic and gender program would like to highlight, and hopefully we can even get printed issues of these booklets for the winter quarter. So that's all. Thank you.
Were there any other questions, comments, observations about life in general? Okay, seeing none, we'll now move on to public comment. This is different in public forum in that this regards directly to items for presentation or reports or collaboration items that have been brought up by Senate. Speak directly on behalf of them. So for members of the galley that would like to come forward. Okay. Seeing none, we will proceed on our roundtable and announcements. I'll start from my right, continue to my left. And start by saying Jason Ramirez.
All right, hello everybody. So I just want to let everybody know that Jessica and I are going to be tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. in the ASUCR office to start brainstorming on Project DTR, Downtown Riverside. So yeah, so we'll see how that's going to go. If you guys are interested in giving input or anything like that, feel free to come swing by. If not, if you guys are interested, let me know and I can send you whatever we think of. Just want to let everybody know.
I just want to say I had a great time at the conference this weekend, and shout out to everyone that went, and everyone who didn't, feel free to talk to anyone that went just to, get some insight into what happened this weekend.
Okay, Senator Delaney.
Pass.
Senator Carlson.
Pass.
Senator Richard Dick.
Pass.
Senator Krishna Rao. Pass. Senator Keem Brown.
I got a few things, just bear with me. First thing is I want to, again, sort of enforce the sentiments Senator Summer Schaefer just presented, that we did have a very, very good time at the Student of Color Conference this weekend. And I also want to say thank you for you personally coming to my workshop, Mr. Chairman, and our elections director for coming and supporting me. Really, really great courage and great feedback. But in that workshop, I was troubled to learn some of the campus climate around the UC system. There's a lot of discrimination, there's a lot of racism going on in a lot of campuses. And one thing that I saw that it's important for us that we all go through certain things. We all face certain adversity, and it may be called something else in someone else's life than it is in yours, but just know that we all do face adversity. And it's very important for us that when we do face adversity, that we bind our communities together and that we don't let our communities go alone without help. And so one thing I would like for us to do here is imagine I said it this weekend, but let us imagine Costco Hall without walls. I like the idea to let individuals know what's going on, but we need to know more about each other in each other's community. And yeah, so did you get that picture? Can you display it?
Yeah, let me email it to Senate Secretary.
Okay. And then the last thing before I show you all what's going on in UC Davis's campus is Campus Safety Day is next week, I believe. And I don't know what our involvement is in that, but I think we should get involved with that. It's where I guess everybody goes around and walks around and checks out things that may be impeding or that could cause potential danger to students on campus. The reason why I say that is because I have my own personal issue with campus safety the other day. And so I think had this walk happened maybe 2 weeks ago, I wouldn't have hurt myself. So if we don't have a formal involvement, I think that we should. So.
Bring up the image shortly.
So, and so while we're waiting, does anybody know if we do have any formal involvement with the campus safety walk? Or
Outreach Director Jessica.
From what I understand, it's hosted by the Women's Resource Center, and what they do is they invite each student on a volunteer basis. They do have one actual walk where those volunteer students will walk the campus, and wherever they feel is a dangerous or important area on campus to focus on, that is where they will be able to. So it's on a volunteer basis. So.
Okay, perfect. So again.
Senator D-Rock, could you describe it?
Okay, so here it is. This is the
from UC Davis.
This is the hate that's being perpetuated on UC Davis's campus by a certain fraternity, and their administration is being reluctant to take any action against this. And the students are forced in a situation where they don't know what to do, because every time they go to administration, this fraternity, nothing happens. And so one of the students was personally affected and shared this with me. There's another image too. So this is a sort of an advertisement for drinking, for students to come out and drink. I think there's one more image connected to that. So the next, you can't really see what's going on here, but the next image, you can really get the picture. And I think that we can do something about this here on our campus. Yeah, so here's it, Jose L. Tigre. So that's Tony Tiger from the cereal. He's got a sombrero, his eyes look cocked crazy, his mouth is wide open, and he's holding a bottle of Jose Cuervo. Now, I took offense to that because I know what demographic or what ethnicity this is trying to target. But I can easily see that with the throwback fitted cap, a malt liquor bottle, and a piece of chicken. So what I'm saying is the stereotype is there. It hurts us all. And like I said earlier, if one community is hurt, all communities are hurt. So I would like us to do something to show solidarity with UC Davis, because honestly, if any of you all were, they're in fear. They don't know. They've tried to ask for help and they're not getting it. So I think if we show solidarity across the UC, that maybe something can finally be done. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. And if you would like to pursue on having AS stand in solidarity with this, I think the legislative process would be great, being able to propose something. So just to have that optional. Outreach Director Jessica Arquitas.
Yeah, it's okay. So I just wanted to continue on with a little bit of more. If Akeem wanted to touch more on that, I can go ahead and have him. But this last Friday, me and Akeem were able to attend ASRCC meeting, and we invited them on campus. This Saturday, we're hoping to have an event that's called Draft Party. So what will take place at this event, we're inviting 2 different schools, providing transportation for them to come on campus and draft their actual personal statements that they would be sending to the UCs to transfer and apply. So that would be taking place this Saturday, November 15th, and the time, what was the time? 2 to 5. We do understand that there also are a lot of other events, and then RCC had also let us know that their homecoming is taking place on that day as well. So they also extended the invitation to attend their homecoming. But if anyone is willing to work on it, work on anything regarding ASRCC and ASUCR, what we did is we actually invited them to our next ASUCR meeting. So we're hoping that with the approval of the chairman, that we'll be able to have a point in the agenda where we'll have ASRCC come and speak. Also, another thing that we were able to learn about ASRCC is the opening of the Latino Center. If anyone would like to get in contact with them, you can go ahead and tell me, and then I'll give you the information as well. What they had was their opening of the Latino Center, and what they're hoping to do is to model their center around our Chicano student programs. They said they were vaguely familiar with it, but they wanted to, what we did is we're inviting them, and Monday at 1 o'clock, if anyone is available, we're having a group of students come on campus so that way they can see how our Chicano student program is run, and also be able to just feel the environment on campus and just get a feel of our Coastal Hall and the different programs that we have. Also, going on this Saturday, Native American Student Programs is having their 9th annual Spirit of the Tribes 5K. The event's like a lot of other events that's taking place this Saturday, November 15th. The time will be from 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. Like I mentioned, this event is hosted by Native American Student Programs, and it honors and celebrates the Native American spirit and culture with a morning full of fun exercise for students, family, and friends. And I want to take the time to invite everyone to come out and enjoy this fundraising event, and just to also, if you are willing to volunteer, you can go there extra early before 7 a.m.
Actually, I think that 5K event was this past Saturday. No, I was there and I ran it. But the Spirit of the Tribe, yeah, that was this past Saturday, the mission did. Yeah.
No, it is on Saturday too.
Oh, there's another one?
On campus.
Yeah, this one is on campus.
Oh, okay.
So,
I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, this one is hosted by the Native American Student Programs.
The mission is
So
this past
break out your
weekend.
shoes this weekend too.
Yeah. So there's 2 different programs, but this one is actually hosted by students on campus. Yeah, so this one is hosted by students on campus. From what my understanding, they also participate in that as well. So they're not a co-sponsorship, but just kind of they take part in the planning process. But the one that's taking place this Saturday is put on by students and held by Native American Student Programs of UCR.
Sorry for the confusion.
I was like, oh. I was like,
Second chance, people.
Okay, so if anyone is available, I invite them all to go. Also, I have 2 other things to point out. This Saturday, taking place on campus, November 15th, is the first of our Chicano Latino Alumni Dinner, and it will take place in Hub 302. The time will be from 6:30 to 9 p.m. We're calling it a homecoming reunion dinner. We invited people who graduated from UCR from 1954 all the way to 2014. So we're expecting a big turnout. It'll be $40 per person. Unfortunately, there was a discounted price of $20 per student, but that was that deadline had passed on November 7th. But if you all had any other questions, feel free to contact me or to walk into Chicano Student Programs and get more information. Lastly, I was also able to attend the Student of Color Conference this last weekend, and I was very happy with the event. I was able to attend the Chicano Latino caucus, and one of the things that we discussed was a past event that happened in Mexico on September 26th, where there was a protest of 43 students, and those 43 students have gone missing, and there are still several issues that have come because of it, but standing in solidarity with those students, we had organized a day of action across the UCs. What we did at that caucus is we first took a picture and we posted it to let them know that we're standing in solidarity with those students and all those students who have gone missing. And on campus at UCR, Mecha, the UCR is organizing their own demonstration that will take place in the day and night. They do have a Facebook event, and the actual event will be on Thursday, November 20th of next week. If y'all wanted to take part, go ahead and feel free to attend the meetings. Mecha, the UCR meets on Wednesdays, 7 p.m. in Chicano Student Programs. And if anyone wanted to take part in the event, like I mentioned before, it'll be on Thursday, November 20th.
Great, thank you.
Can I say something? I'm sorry, it's one brief.
Okay.
It's about I was actually wrong about the annual campus safety walk. It is Thursday, it's next Thursday, but what it is it's Thursday, but it's not what I was thinking it is. I'm looking for some type of thing where we can go and actually look and identify places that are harmful, like trip and fall. But this says something else. This says places that are easy for attackers to hide. No, I'm talking about a nail sticking out of a 2x4 that somebody can trip over. That's what I mean by campus safety.
But both are good though.
But it's very good, but this is not what I was talking about.
I suppose you could look out for that while
We should still go to it.
I want to go, yes. But I'm not saying this is not going to alleviate.
Thank you for the clarification. Okay. Elections Director, Stephanie Rose.
I'm also very thankful for the opportunity that I was given to attend the Student of Color Conference this weekend. It was very educational and very impactful, so I'm very thankful I was able to attend that this weekend. Additionally, I know the Personnel Director actually mentioned an opening for my committee. I already have 3 fantastic senators, but I'd really like to obtain and utilize as many perspectives as possible, so if any of you are interested, please contact me. And I will often bring food to my committee meetings.
As if you need any more incentive to join election.
Thank you.
All right. President Pro Tem Board Devin Plaza.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I hope to see you all at the homecoming tailgate this weekend. I believe it starts at around 11, and if I'm not mistaken, it's at the church parking lot right down the street. I hope to see you all there. I hope to see you all at the game. As Ashley said, first 100 students get a t-shirt. So let's, get pumped up and increase campus spirit. So I'll see you all there. Also, I just wanted to give a round of snaps to everyone who helped put SOC together and to everyone who allowed us to go. It was a really eye-opening experience, and I'm very thankful and grateful to have been able to attend.
Great, thank you so much. Vice President of Finance, Ira Shang. President Nafi Kareem.
So we are currently considering senior gift ideas. So if you all have any ideas, please get in touch with me, email me, or just call me and talk to me in person. And also, thank you to the gallery for speaking and taking our questions. Thank you again for coming up.
Okay. We have Vice President of External Affairs around.
Yeah, so just as a reminder, walk out at 11:15 a.m. on Tuesday the 18th and meet us at the Bell Tower for that rally as well.
Okay. Oh, sorry, I think I passed over parliamentarian moments.
Yeah, just quick announcement. I was going to say I was also in attendance at SOCC, and because of my attendance at the Black Caucus, I was thinking about drafting some legislation regarding campus climate and race, and then institutional barriers for people from non-traditional backgrounds. I'm unfamiliar with how to write legislation, so if any of you senators would like to help me out, I'm looking at Akeem because he was also talking about it. If any of you all would like to help me out with this legislation, I'd appreciate that. Tomorrow, kind of a weird fact, World Kindness Day. Everybody random act of kindness tomorrow if you can. And then lastly, Veterans Day just passed, so if we could all have a moment of silence for our soldiers. All right, y'all, thank you.
Great, thank you. Vice President of Campus Internal Affairs.
So tomorrow there's going to be actually a performance in downtown Riverside in the Culver Center. It's going to be the Segundo Jueves performance. It's hosted by Teatro Quinto Sol as well as the Theater for Social Change organization. They're going to be having, it's going to be tomorrow from 7 to 9 p.m. If you have the time, go check it out. The other thing is there's also Spamalot, which is the UCR Theater Department's show. Is going to begin tomorrow as well. And you can get tickets at the university box office.
Great, thank you. Marketing Director, Ravina Fowler.
Hey everyone, just to reiterate what Senator Keene was saying, next Thursday there's the Campus Safety Walk hosted by I guess the Women's Resource Center, I believe. She sent an email to everyone's email, Romney. It was sent today and the deadline to apply is today, but I'm sure if you email her and let her know you're interested, that would be awesome. It's going to be 6 p.m. next Thursday. I would love to go, but I have class, but I think it's really important because there's a lot of unsafe parts on this campus that need to be addressed. Yeah.
Great, thank you. Senator Herman-Sang.
Yeah, so Sixth Student Association is hosting our biggest on-campus event this upcoming Wednesday, the 19th. It's called Turban Day. So the idea behind this event is to tie turbans, or kind of like take the mystery out of how a turban is tied, the importance of turbans within the Sikh faith, And also one thing I want to make very clear is that your gender does not matter, and that individuals of all genders wear turbans. So I highly encourage, as students, leaders of this school, that all of you come out and, maybe for a minute, maybe for an hour, maybe wear it to class, maybe even wear it to this Senate meeting. Try wearing a turban sometime on that day. It means a lot to me. It also means a lot to the families of all of those that have been at the end of hate crimes. The majority of hate crimes perpetuated after 9/11 majority have been towards Turban 6 here in America. The first hate crime being 2 days after 9/11, in which an individual who was actually a former soldier was killed in Arizona. And the only thing he'd done was, he's wearing a turban and he had a beard. So it's kind of this idea to stop perpetuating ignorance, taking the stigma away from turbans. Thank you, and I hope to see all of you there.
Great, thank you. Senator Replay.
Hey everyone, so another event tomorrow that's taking place will be hosted at the UCR Extension Center, and a very important Iranian American speaker will be coming to discuss current affairs in the Middle East. So if any of you are interested to RSVP, you'll need to email tinaon@ucr.edu. The spelling of her email is TINAAOUN@ucr.edu. If you don't get a hold of her in time, since the event will be taking place at 6 p.m., you can just pop into the Middle Eastern Student Center, which is located at 381, room 381 in the Hub. So if that's something that interests you, I definitely would encourage you to RSVP for that event, because some important perspectives would be shared. Thanks.
Yes. So I just want to give kudos, high fives, snaps to all of Senate. One of our duties is to approve the appointments of staff, those such as Iris, Shafi, Jasmine, Arturo, Brianna, etc. It is week 6. I do sit on 4 committees, two of which have appointees, Finance Committee and External Affairs Committee. And everybody is doing a really good job, so kudos to you all for approving them. It is really easy to question some of the people's work ethics. If you are ever feeling that way, please feel more than free to sit on one of these committees and see how active they are with their roles. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Senator Priscilla Bray.
Yes, all right. Hi, everyone. So yesterday was Veterans Day, and I attended a rally in West Hollywood for justice for Filipino American veterans with Katipunan. That whole organization is also called JFAB. And basically, it's for those Filipino veterans who served in World War II who did not get compensation from the American government, even though they were promised that. And so in the same spirit as Abraham was mentioning earlier, next Tuesday is a walkout and rally as a response to tuition hikes, and it's basically asking for students to stand up together. And the main point of this is that there cannot be any equity without solidarity. So really come out and support. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Senator Samuel. Senator Jackie Jacoby.
Pass.
Senator Galecki.
Pass.
Senator Alias.
Pass.
Okay, great. Now move on to our final item on the agenda, section L for adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
A motion to adjourn.
Okay, motion by Vice President Campbell, second by President Correa Plaza. All those in favor? All those opposed? And abstain. All right. At 8:32 p.m. This meeting is adjourned.